What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel, and for those of you that are new to the channel, thanks for joining us. Today we're going to be back in Assetto Corsa and we're going to check out another subcompact Japanese car that was used quite a bit for racing, but has gained a really large cult following, even though there was only like 1,400 of these cars made, and at least in this trim level. There's quite a few that were made in the other standard trim options with much lower power engine options, and we'll talk about that a little bit too. But the car we are going to be looking at today is the 1969 Isuzu Bellett, or Bellett, I'm not really exactly sure how to pronounce it. I did kind of like look around a little bit, but I never found anywhere where somebody actually said the name of the car or like spelled or what is that even called, where they had like the pronunciation for the word actually like laid out where you could figure it out. It's one of those two, I'm guessing though. Anyways, in '69 was the first year the GT-R was available, and it was actually the first car along with the Skyline to be a Japanese car titled with that badge, which I thought was really interesting. I did not know that there was another car released at the same time with the GT-R badge. Another thing that's kind of interesting with the Bellett's history is that it was also the first Japanese car to carry the GT tag. And although the GT was a lower performance car, it wasn't really much off of what the GT-R was in terms of power numbers. I don't want to dive in too much into like the different models, different engine options, and history of the car, because honestly there's a lot more than I ever really realized with this thing. I do also want to mention this is not the first time this car has appeared in games. It was actually in Gran Turismo 4, 5, and 6, and I don't remember if it was a default car in GT Legends, but I know for a fact you could drive it as a mod if not, because I drove it in GT Legends before as well. So while it's not the first, this is definitely one of the better done versions of this car in my opinion. It drives really well, it's extremely fun, and it kind of surprised me by how well it can slide and hold a slide as long as you kind of stay on top of it, because just like the Honda S800 from like a week and a half ago we reviewed now, it is a really short wheelbase car, so it is a little snappy, but it's got a soft enough suspension setup, it feels like, that it kind of like rotates into the slide a little smoother than what that Honda did. The Honda was just really snappy, and it had enough grip where it would just snap itself back and was really aggressive when it would try to catch itself. It's a really odd feeling car. If you watch the video on that one, you kind of know what I'm talking about. Now to go into specifics a little bit, the Isuzu Bellett GT-R did have the 1.6 liter. They also had, I believe the smallest engine was a 1.3, and they even had a diesel engine variant for this. And there's actually been quite a few other engines that they use in the Belletts, but the GT-R was initially released in '69 with the 1.6, which is the version we are going to be racing today. And we will be at Okyama Piper circuit doing 8 laps if I remember correctly. You guys will see it all once we jump over on the rig. Alright guys, now that we're over here in the rig, let's take just a quick look at the car. As you can see, the mod maker, which is Assetto Garage, did an amazing job. In fact, most of the stuff I talked about is actually already in this. I did not notice it before until I came to look in here and just kind of show you guys the power figures and stuff like that. But we are putting out 170 brake horsepower, 200 newton meters of torque, and this thing only weighs 850 kilograms. So even though it's not super powerful, it is a very quick and nimble little car and just a blast to drive. Now, one of the big like visual differences, besides only being available as a coupe and I believe the notchback version to get the GT-R, was the all black hood that they came with, which you can see this livery that we have right now does have that option. Some of the other liveries in here don't have it, but I believe, I was going to say the orange one and red one do, which those are like the most iconic versions of this car. Also, I've seen a yellow one in quite a few images. I don't know if they have the livery though for the yellow one. Then we have a white with black hood. As you can see though, there's a few different options for liveries, but my favorite's the black and red. It's a very iconic image for this car. A lot of the pictures you'll see are this like basically exact paint job without all of the sponsor decals and racing numbers obviously. And then going over here, like I said, we are at Okayama Piper circuit. I will link to these mods down below, although I'm going to say now, I'm not positive if I can give you guys the same link that I'm using for my Isuzu Bellett GT-R. I downloaded it, and within like 3 days the link was no longer working, and I asked if there was another one available, and they did post another link to a mod for this car, but they were not positive if it was the same one or not. So I will leave it down below for you guys if you want to try it out. I have not seen any other mod for this car for Assetto floating around though, so I want to say more than likely it's going to be the same one I'm running today. Okay boys, well, I was not expecting this to happen, but this is actually my third attempt at this race for this video. I keep getting just a little too distracted talking about the car and what's going on in the race, not paying attention to the car in front of me that is slowing down way too much and way too soon into a corner and just blasting into them. So hopefully we can keep a good balance of doing commentary for you guys, kind of explaining what the car feels like as we go, and also not crashing. Because honestly, this is a little bit ridiculous at this point for me to have wrecked this slow of a car this many times. Especially because this car is not like a really super difficult to drive mod. It does take a little finesse in some of the corners, but for the most part, it's a very stable car, and as long as you're used to the grip levels and the way the car slides out, it's fairly easy to predict it and be able to catch slides or even carry a slide through the corners. And we have to deal with this AI madness for these first couple corners. On this circuit, they are just really terrible until they spread out a little bit after like the first 3 or 4 turns. Then they start to behave a little bit more properly. I feel like with how soft the suspension is in this as well, and how bouncy the car is, they have a really hard time like picking a line and not trying to correct the car as it's moving around. Definitely seems like that is a major part of it. Oh, just straight tove up the inside. Almost made it through there cleanly until they turned into me. That's what I was saying though, like I keep zoning out too much on the talking part, not paying attention to what I'm doing in the race, and keep almost just destroying the AI in some of these corners. You can kind of hear there our front tires scrubbed a little bit for traction. We had a little bit of understeer, but as soon as I was off throttle enough, it does grip up really quickly and corrects itself even from understeer really well, which is one of the things that I found most enjoyable, because once you get that grip up, if you get back in throttle and time it right, you can get the rear to start rotating at the same time and really get a nice rotation through the corner to be able to carry a lot of speed on the exit. The AI seem to be like really terrible in this corner, so should easily be able to make up some positions through that as we go through this race. A little sideways there. You see what I mean though? It did not take much to correct it. It didn't really unsettle the car a whole bunch when I did start correcting it. And it didn't snap like extremely aggressively like the S800 did. You can really tell that soft suspension kind of is just settling down how overactive this shorter wheelbase would be as far as oversteer is concerned. Does make it a bit tricky in some of the rougher corners, especially when I was trying to do some practice at Woolton Park on the historic version, because that is such a rough track. You would really have to be sure the car was fairly planted and pointed the direction you wanted, because the bumps could just send you flying sideways without you notice or like being ready for it, because the car just kind of bounces around that much and has that much suspension play. Getting real tied in on this quarter panel there. See if we can out-drag race him to this corner. So you can see what I mean there. I kind of use the momentum of the car to kind of help get the rear to come around and get us rotated enough to be able to really get some speed on that corner exit. One downside to it having a really soft setup like this is it does weight transfer very quickly over the rear when you're accelerating and over the front really quickly and aggressively when you're braking. So you do have to be kind of smooth on your inputs when it comes to braking and accelerating, or else you'll end up locking up or spinning tires extremely easy. You can see what I mean right there. I was kind of just like powering through the understeer, and it's really easy to lose grip on one side of the car as it's leaning out towards the corner, so you kind of do just end up sliding the entire car through the corner, kind of like a four-wheel drift almost. And you can kind of see there what I was saying about, while it is a fairly stable car, the setup on it is done pretty good. You do have to be a little, like, weary of your inputs because too much, and it just really upsets the car. And I feel like a lot of that has to do with the combination of the vintage race tires and just a super soft suspension setup. There's just really not enough traction there. Although it does make the car extremely fun to drive, it's really easy to get this thing up on 3 wheels through corners, especially if you get really close into the curbing and clip it as you're coming around like a medium to speed corner. It makes for some really awesome photos. Really was not wanting to downshift a second there, but it feels like this thing makes most of its power up top, and it seemed like we were just kind of out of power, band in third. I gotta say, I'm really surprised I've never seen this car in more racing sims or just games in general than Gran Turismo, because it is such a really awesome little car, and it is actually rated as one of the 10 most iconic Japanese cars of all time. It did live a fairly decent lifespan too before they discontinued the Bellett model. And because of that, it did gain quite a large following of enthusiasts that really, really love these little cars. If they do drive anything like they do here in Assetto, though, I can totally understand why. It's just a massive amount of fun to drive and take around the track, or even just on public road, just having a little sporty drive through the Japanese mountainside. I could see just where the allure is to owning one of these. Oh, unfortunately, it's pretty near impossible to actually own one of these GT-Rs, seeing as there was only 1,400 produced, but you could also get, or always get a standard Bellett and just upgrade it to the point where it'd be about the same thing and go out and have some fun with them. Really was just kind of leaning out in that corner. Probably see there on the wheel just like the small micro corrections I was making as the car did start rotating a little bit on me. Just enough to keep it from wanting to go too sideways, but letting the car actually rotate itself through the corner and be able to get as fast of a line out of it as we can. I have a feeling that in actual multiplayer racing against other like humans, that drive a little better than the I do, especially in some of these corners where they should be carrying a lot more speed like there. It would just be 10 times funner driving these things. I gotta say, this track looks amazing too. I don't remember who did this mod, but they did an amazing job just on the visuals alone. Especially these mountainsides, they look just like really alive and vibrant. This isn't really a review of the track, but I figured I'd point that out and mention it while we are here. That was one thing that really stood out to me when I first loaded it up to do this race and test this car out here. It's just how detailed this map is and how well this track is and how much work they put into it. Like from a distance like this, those mountains look like they could almost be real. Just trying to get a little sideways on the corner exit. Since we are in first, we got a little room to play around with now. I was just pushing the front end around. I think we really need to be in at least second gear so we can get wheel speed high enough to get the car to really get sideways on us. I did have a lot of fun with this thing in practice though, just doing exactly that. I'm really surprised these tires have as much grip as they do right now, because it looks, from what I'm seeing anyways, the tires are still pretty cold. super wide there. Probably almost had the entire car on that curb. Definitely felt like it in the force feedback. That's one of the only times when you get like a whole lot of feeling through the wheel driving this car rather than just like really raw force feedback from body roll and weight transfer. Suspension's so soft you don't get much road feel at all on any of the circuits that I drove on, even on the vintage layout for Oulton Park with how rough it was. You didn't really feel much other than like the major bumps in the circuit. Which I've never drove anything specifically like this per se, but I drove plenty of cars from this time period, and when they had fairy cell suspensions like this, usually the wheel does feel fairly dead in them. You don't get a whole lot of feedback through them. Well guys, that's going to do it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. The race was definitely a lot of fun for this one. Like I said, I really enjoy these style cars more than just about anything. Just old vintage touring cars of any kind, really. They just have so much character to the way they drive. They're all just so vastly different, and they all have little quirks you have to learn to either drive around or tune out of the setups. And it just makes it a lot different than, say, like GT3 cars where, yeah, you'll be faster with a good setup around a given track, but you can hop in a GT3 car on basically any circuit and get it around there in at least a decent time. Like I said though guys, if you do want to download these mods, I will link them below. I highly recommend you try both of them out. The track and car are both amazingly well done. I've really got to give it off to the modders for these ones because they just really knocked it out of the park. If you guys did enjoy the video though, please remember to hit that like button down below, comment and subscribe. Give me your guys' thoughts and feedback on the video or anything you want to see me do. Also, if you want to help support the channel and help me keep adding more content as well as just improving the overall look of the channel, feel free to jump down in the description. There's links to my merch store. I actually have two right now because I'm trying out Teespring and Stream Elements merch store just to see which one I like more. They actually are the design you saw at the intro of the video on the shirt I was wearing. It's just a JZX90. Has my logo behind it as well as the kanji for Suiso. So if you want to help me out, that's a great way to do it. Get yourself some awesome merch at the same time. Anyways though guys, I'll see you in the next one.